Welcome to our business training webinar today, how to protect your business from fraud and scams. By way of introductions of the team bringing you the session today, my name is Stephen Cornter. I'm one of the business training managers. I'm in Nelson. Popped up on screen, you'll see Melissa Fruick. Melissa is based up in Auckland. In terms of the presentation today, I'll look after the first half and Melissa will look after the second. Let's get cracking. And today's topic: there is no financial advice being provided. There are no financial products being promoted. Importantly, this is something where expert advice can certainly pay dividends, because every situation is different. Every business incident that they might come across is going to be different as well. So it is certainly our recommendation that you do take your own professional advice as appropriate to your situation. I suppose a little bit of an overview for today, and before we just get into the agenda. Melissa and I, we're not technical people, and this is not a technical session. We do cover off a couple of things that will sort of feel a little bit technical, and we will point you in the right direction of the technical material. The intent of this session is to raise awareness about what's happening in New Zealand, to raise awareness as to how businesses and individuals end up becoming victims of frauds and scams, and some of the initiatives that you should be taking around education, training, awareness with your teams. Let's just talk about the agenda. Let's look at the sort of the landscape that we live in here in New Zealand, and how do frauds and scams impact us. So, and then we're going to look at what we're seeing in terms of common frauds and scams that will impact businesses, and we're also going to touch on a little bit of a personal flavour as well, because that's just as important while we've got your attention. Then we're going to look at how to some of the sort of safety things that we really need to improve on as well. Righto, so that's the agenda for today. So what are we seeing? Being at the bottom of the South Pacific, and it doesn't matter where you live in the country, there is no escape. Our isolation in terms of an island country offers us no protection whatsoever. We are consistently seeing increases of the number of attacks. We are seeing attacks becoming more sophisticated. Scammers will now ring you up and address you by name. So that personalization of frauds and scams is another thing, because in the past, we could more easily identify things that didn't seem quite right with bad grammar and spelling and the like. But they've wisened up to that, and so that personalization, which just sort of reduces our defenses just a little bit. In terms of sort of in the now, and it wouldn't surprise me if frauds and scams and sort of charity fundraising, as a persona, came out of Gabriel, where these people show no mercy. There are no scruples here. It is just an exercise of getting money out of people. The one thing that has probably supported the growth in scams, and not only in the number but also the value of losses, is technology. And on one hand, it's a wonderful thing. How would we do without it? But on the other hand, it is as a vehicle or as a venue to be able to get to lots and lots of people, have an element of sophistication as to be able to complete frauds and scams. It's the way to go. Probably one of the biggest risk areas are people using their own devices to access work environments. That has tended to be demonstrated as the weakest link. So if you've got people being able to access through apps to your work environments, then that could well be an area of attention where we do see lots of attacks and losses. So the other thing too is the current environment, and this is a little bit sad really, but also the risk of internal frauds, where we're seeing with high inflationary and cost pressure and pressure going on households, that the potential for internal fraud is on the increase. And so just potentially, they're not the topic of today per se, but very much look at the internal controls that you have in place and reporting, and the delegation of duties is a very important thing to review, but not the topic of today. We'll move on. So what I'm going to share with you now are just some of the common frauds and scams that our business customers are seeing in terms of attacks, and more importantly, are successful in the business community. So let's just look at a few of these. We're going to look at 5, and they come in different forms, but you'll get the drift as we go through each one. And I'm sure that you have seen a number of these or heard of these, but we'll just sort of highlight what they look like and potentially, how to identify the ones that, you should really pay a little bit more attention to. So we're going to look at phishing, we're going to look at business email compromise, data compromise, cyber attacks, and impersonation. So we'll just go through each one of those. Now, you will see a lot of these, and you will get them at home and you will get them at work, and they just come at you left, right, and center. There are millions of these being blocked before they even get to you, but the level of sophistication and some of the things that we need to look at in terms of, well, what would be some of the things that would highlight that this isn't normal or in the normal course of business. The first thing to look at, and we'll just start at the top of the page and work our way down, is the email address from which these messages come from. Now, they easily mask the address. So in this case, it came from, it's purported to come from the ANZ, but when you click on it or hover your mouse over it and it expands the email address, you will see often it is an account that's been hacked and they're using their email, but it certainly doesn't mirror what you would normally expect to see. One of the things that we're seeing, the fraudsters and scammers, is they want to generate urgency. They want to generate a sense of panic and a prompt action. So in this example, account on hold. And, no one wants their account to be put on hold. And, certainly what people want to go, well, how do I fix this? What is the thing that I need to do to stop my account being on hold? And they come out with different sorts of things. And you'll see there circled is the update now. And that's the click that starts the problem. And the click could take you to a page that requires you to enter your username and password. The click could download some software. The click could take you off to another website, or the click could just identify that here is a potential victim that could work on further. And bless them. In this example here, if you click, and you can get discounted ticket prices to the cricket, which that's fantastic. But a sense of urgency. You've only got a certain time to do it. Click now. Now, the action that you need to take is just delete. If this is getting through your firewalls at work, you can, of course, send them. Now, hoax@cybersecurity.anz.com is a real email address, and you can forward them through to there, and we'll make sure that we're blocking and dealing with those sort of things. But these phishing emails, you'll see the example here, whether it be email or by text, we're seeing a whole lot more come through the likes of Messenger or WhatsApp. So they're the sorts of things where we're getting to people and hoping to have some sort of interaction and start some sort of interaction, whether it be a conversation or whether it be getting them to click on them. We saw a lot recently for, the parcel delivery, the click on there. Often what this goes through to is a subscription to a credit card, then money just keeps going out and out. So there are lots of ways that they will use these access channels to get to people. The other thing, also can be as simple as data harvesting. And so getting people's, names and email addresses. Now they have value in, the dark web. And so even giving away that sort of information is not a great thing and can lead to dramas in the past. But getting these sort of things in a business environment, advise your web control people, your security people, have a process to be able to recognize and identify, because if these things are getting through your systems, then those systems maybe need to be reviewed so they're capturing the ones that shouldn't get through. Now, business email compromise, now this is a biggie, and this continues to be a successful fraud and scam. And what will happen here is your email system will be hacked. And so there are people watching and able to control the emails coming and going through your business. Where you have a situation where email has been compromised, the way that this scam works is they will more often just watch and wait, and potentially when there is the opportunity for an invoice that you have issued to a client, that they will then substitute the account number that it's supposed to be paid to and then forward it on to the client, and the client will get the invoice, see the account number that it's supposed to be paid to. It all looks well and good. Pay the money away, and you've missed out on getting paid. And you follow up with the client, and they say, "Well, I've paid," and they say, "Well, you haven't." And time has passed, and time is the enemy here. That once money's gone, it is very difficult to recover the further time goes on. And so in this situation where if you potentially you're dealing with a regular client and they you identify, well, this isn't a different account number to what we have in our system, or they have highlighted to you, well, please be aware we've changed our account number. Now, this is a normal thing. This does happen in the normal course of events, but please do take a moment to verify independently that the email is correct, that the email has come from an appropriate source, and don't ring or contact them on the email address that's on the invoice, because they could well have changed that as well. So verify it by an independent source, looking it up in the phone book, ringing them, talking to someone that you know at that business. So this is becoming quite a big thing. Another example has been when business owners have then been compromised as well, and have sent emails back to the business to say, please pay this money away. I've gone and bought this machine. We need to pay a deposit on this, that, and the other. And without that independent verification, because they have been watching your emails, they know the style of writing and everybody's names in terms of where things should go to the right people. But if there's any inkling that this isn't what we would normally do, or this isn't the normal character, and especially if they go and say, look, I'm going to be out of contact for the next couple of 3 days, so you won't be able to contact me. Well, that's just a big red flag. And so be aware of those flags. Data compromise, and this is when data that you hold gets in the wrong hands. And there have been some massive data compromises. There's been Microsoft, there's been Sony, there's been the Medicare in Australia. And the ramifications of having these events in a business and losing data And so there is the reputational damage for those businesses that are publicly listed that now need to make this public. There's the impact on share price and reputation. There is the direct cost of actually fixing this. There is potential reimbursement to people, and the fact that you need to go to your customer base and say that you have had a data compromise and a data hack. So really important here that if you are gathering information about people, and under the Privacy Act, all of you as businesses are an agency, and the responsibilities that you have to collect information, to store it safely, to only collect what you need. And so you can just imagine that we gather up a huge amount of information about people, not only names and addresses and emails, but also the likes of credit card numbers, mobile phone numbers, health information. So that is really valuable information in the wrong hands, especially then we come to, impersonation of people. So this is something, to test within your business to say, well, how secure and how up-to-date are our systems and processes to keep this as safe as it can possibly be? Because I get back to the beginning, we are not immune from these attacks. So please be aware with data compromise, reputational damage. Now we'll get on to cyber attacks, and this has probably been the biggest one in New Zealand of recent times. And if there are any of you here in the Waikato region, it would have impacted you and the Waikato DHB. How did this start? Well, it was an employee clicking, downloaded a piece of software, and then boomfa. And one thing led to another, and it crippled, as you can see in this newspaper article, the whole system. And this was back in 2021, and they are still dealing with the ramifications of this. And not only did it impact patient care and the healthcare of the people in that geography, but also just the cost and time and effort to restore systems took quite some time. And so these sort of cyber attacks, this one happened through a click and downloading a piece of software. The other one that you may have heard of, called a DDoS, or a denial of service attack. Now, just talking about what these are, and the ANZ, we have had we have had denial of service attacks on us, and a lot of businesses have. What happens, and these are it's all computer generated, that a website just gets bombarded with requests. So there are just thousands and thousands and thousands of requests going to a website, and it just brings the website to its knees. It can't cope with the volume. And so all of these attacks on the website give the normal users, denial of service. So that's where that comes from. And so once again, this is something that, the discussions that you should have with your web providers, and, having reassurances from them around, what are the systems and processes in place if we become the victim of a denial of service attack. Impersonation. And impersonation has become a biggie of late, and part of the increased sophistication of fraudsters and scammers. And these are screenshots that we have, we have found in the real world. And so a phone call that has come through to a phone, and up pops the, the caller ID, ANZ New Zealand customer service. Okay. Fantastic. I wonder why they're ringing me. And, that is, we'll potentially answer the call. Our our guard has been lowered because it may be a brand that we're associated with or a brand that we trust, and potentially it's a call from a scammer giving you some sort of warning or account on hold, asking you to complete some action or just engaging that conversation, and potentially going saying, I'm going to send you a link to click on, and that becomes the problem. So, you know, these are situations of increased sophistication that you must just take a little bit of awareness of. And there is no harm erring on the side of caution if something doesn't seem right. And so the other example, once again, it came from the ANZ Bank, and these will come from all sorts of banks, and you will be getting phone calls at home as well in that sort of personal space from completely random organizations that is part of phishing. So how do we deal with this? We can't stop the phone from ringing because that's what it's there for. That's part of the deal. But certainly, don't engage in conversation and just hang up is the best course of action. And we're seeing so many of these pop up on social media channels as well. Now, I just want to look at the one on the left, a verified social account. We've got ANZ New Zealand with a little tick next to it. And so the little tick demonstrates that it's that the owner of the page has been verified with, in this case, with Facebook. Now, you may well be thinking, well, I could easily go and replicate that. I can find a little tick and pop that on the page and away we go. And probably you could, but it is just one little measure. Whereas we look at the one on the right, and this is a perfectly good example. Is there going to be the opportunity for you to buy a vacuum cleaner for $2.99? No, there is not. In this example here, someone has created a Dyson New Zealand page, and so as you'll see, hurry to get it by just filling out the form. Now, you will not get a vacuum cleaner. So what you will get, however, is a form to fill in, which will give away an awful lot of personal details and more than likely your credit card details as well, because you've got to pay the $2.99 somehow. So look for that little blue tick, that verified page. Go and have a look at your own business Facebook channel or social channels, and have you gone through the verification processes so it is identifiable as a measure of safety or a measure of the owner is verified. So what can we do? What are some of the things that you need to be looking at to stop some of these things happening to you? Now, the chances of you being attacked remain quite high. We can't stop those, and those attacks continue to increase. It's the response to the attacks that's the key thing. And so let's just have a quick look at some of the things that you need to do. So the first thing, it's the people, it's the training, it's the human actions, it's the 90% that we need to deal with first. And this is easy stuff to deal with. And just think about this as a bit of a checklist or cheat sheet even. Be careful in terms of sharing information about yourself or the business, and just giving away information which potentially the sort of thing that can't be found out just in the normal sort of public environment. Passwords. The most common password in the world, I think, is password 123, and so not great. And we're generally not great at having good passwords. I'm hoping in your environments that you are required to change your passwords on a regular basis. I know here at the bank, we are, our system makes us change our passwords on a regular sort of rotation. And you would have thought is there value in, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters, and all that sort of thing? Ultimately, all they are additional keystrokes, and there is the keystroke of a uppercase or lowercase or a number or a special character is no different. It's just from the suite of available characters. The real strength in passwords is that they are longer. And, the way that I like to describe this is, is a combination, like a bike lock, where if you've only got four cylinders to crack the lock, then you could, over time, you'll easily enough, guess it or break it or work your way through it. But if that's, 8 or 10 or 12 or longer, so just think with the passwords you create, the longer the better. And they can be proper sentences or connected words. They don't have to be, completely, random, which makes it harder. It could be the first line of a song. I don't, the names of your kids and your pets, I don't know. But just the longer is better is the key. Two-factor authentication, and you will see this in play with a lot of apps or websites where you might have a username and password, and then you might have to get a text code that you have to put in. So there's another channel that verifies your access, potentially getting into your mobile phone, where it might go, voice or thumbprint or facial recognition, and then you might have to put a password in as well. So those are the sorts of things. You might have to answer a security question. So if there is the opportunity to have two-factor authentication, then please have that turned on. Having a response plan, and as sad as it does seem, there are going to be more attacks and more victims, and how you respond is going to be, the crux of the matter. And there are a number of ways that you can do this, and we do run a separate webinar on managing risk, of which, data security and cyber risk is one of the things. But having a plan around contact information, a plan around the frequency and how well your backups are done. And also you can insure now against cyber attacks. So is that a conversation that you need to have with your insurance broker? Because the costs of unwinding a cyber attack can be massive. So there is an insurance solution for that as well. Vitally important to keep all of your systems up to date. Just as a little aside, I've got a couple of websites just for my own hobbies and interests and stuff, but I have all of my plugins or add-ins to the website updating automatically, and it would probably be, if it wasn't every day, it would just about be every other day where there is an update to these apps. And sometimes there are improvements in the apps, sometimes they are there for security improvements or patching. So making sure that all software and apps, and that you do have antivirus and malware installed as well. Giving people access to the level that lets them do their job. And I'm just trying to think of the right term for it, but it escapes me a moment. Least privilege. So be careful in terms of how much access you give people, and that you want them to be able to do their job appropriately, but should they have access to everything? And it's one of those things that just having controls in place. Also the ability through work environments, can you use USB sticks? Are you able to download software? And so those are the sorts of things, are the controls that you need to put in place to make sure that the wrong things don't end up in your system. The same sort of blocking particular types of websites, and there are plenty of systems that will do all this for you. And the sort of overarching thing, protecting personal information. Give out your personal information at that sort of lowest level that that is necessary. So it is a valuable resource. And I think, we often have conversations, and you will all be having conversations around health and safety, but also have conversations about cybersecurity, thinking about the value of changing passwords, the value of understanding the threats that are happening in the environment, the threats that may have been blocked coming to your business, the things that you've seen in your own personal lives. The more we talk about it, the greater the knowledge, the greater the awareness, and the greater the level of protection that people have, and confidence that they will have in not being part of the 90%. So that's the people piece. The next slide, and before I hand over to Mel, is a little bit more around the technical part. And what we have copied here is from CERT. And let me introduce CERT to you. So it's the Cyber Emergency Response Team, which is a New Zealand government organisation set up maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And they have an awful lot of, and Luna's just popped the link into the chat. They have resources that I think are really valuable. They put out a really good newsletter to keep you abreast of what's happening and what maybe the theme of current attacks are. And so a lot of these things that we've looked at, and I'm not going to go into a lot of the detail, but just we've talked about multi-factor authentication, password managers. There was a story out just the other day about a password manager system that got hacked. Generally, the belief is that they're quite a good thing, because you've only got to remember one password, but you still have to remember the one password. Putting in place logging of access so you can spot anything that is out of the ordinary. Implement network segmentation, and this is the thing that got the Waikato University, the Waikato DHB, where the action in one part of the business actually impacted the whole segmentation of their business. So they couldn't just close off one part, it impacted the whole lot. And we talked about least privilege, and I think one of the biggies and simplest and must-dos is the quality of our backups and the ability to restore backups. And that's just not good practice in a cyber attack, but it's good practice because of the events just happen in our world that we just can't help but be part of. So this is critical controls for 2022, which is on the CERT website, and they go into a whole lot more detail, so recommend with that. That gets me to the end of my section. I'm going to hand over to Mel, and Mel's going to look at the frauds and scams that we're certainly seeing lots and lots of in the personal space as well. So while we've got your attention, I think we need to touch on these as well.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, everyone, and welcome along this morning. So much to take in with this, but as Stephen said, it's really important to go through and be aware of any of these sort of frauds that have been around for a while, and as they sort of change with the scammers, they try and change things as we go. So what are we seeing for our personal customers? So just so you know, we always update it on our ANZ website and sort of emerging frauds and scams that we see. So if you are interested, you can jump on our website and read further about any of these that I'm going to go through. So the first one here is cold call scams. So basically, kind of as the name says, they're calling you cold, that could call you up on the phone. You may get a text message before this. So there's been those common ones. So it's a text message basically say that you've got a delivery coming and you need to pay a customs fee. And it's particularly at those times at Christmas, you're really busy, but don't click on the link. And then the follow-up, people were getting some phone calls posing as our fraud team or another bank's fraud team and claiming that there'd been unauthorized transactions on their account, asking for security codes and links there. They even had phone numbers that looked like they were from the banks and different ones like that. They're trying to give you an element of fear a lot of the time in this. So just be aware of anything with links, as Stephen has gone through, or anything like that just doesn't feel right. The other one here, crypto investment scams. They can either come to your door. Again, it could be like another cold call, and they're going to talk you through the best investment deal of your life, basically. And I like to sort of say, as a rule of thumb, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Whether that's sort of their rates of that they're offering, or how it sort of looks. But ask more questions, particularly if you get people coming to the door. Stephen touched on charities and things like that. You can even get that, but just make sure you're asking for some verification or ID from where they're from and who they are. Pig butchering scams. Now, the name of this, I didn't name this, and you're probably going, what is this one here? These start off as a relationship building or romance scams, and don't send someone money if you've never met them. Okay, I've seen it before. People on the dating apps, and look, not to say those dating apps don't work for other reasons, but people going, chat to you, build up a relationship with someone, and then they say, I'll need money because I've got an emergency, or I'll send you some money if you send me this money. So they're really more common than you think. And again, just be aware, if you've not met this person face to face ever before, just be very wary if they're asking you to send them money for you. Phishing. So Stephen touched on this. It's very much the same as it is for business. Identity theft. This is where people are looking to obtain your personal information so that they can pretend to be you. And then once they sort of have this information about you, then potentially they could go and get credits in your name. They could access your funds, potentially open bank accounts, all without your authorization. How do they look to do that? So they could trick you into getting information. So that could be through a cold call, through asking you to click on a link, entering credit card details. I've seen it with a lot of ones online with fashion ones. There'll be a competition, a genuine competition from it's an Instagram page. You put your name on it, and then another fake account that looks almost identical. And then they'll send you a link going, congratulations, you've won. Please click this link and enter your credit card details to get your prize. Again, these happen quite a lot, and it's really unfortunate. And it's just looking at those and report them if you are aware that they're there straight away so they get done. Another way they could look to get your personal information is they could intercept your emails, your inbox, or they could just take mail out of your letterbox. Other ways they could, if they're really things, some people can even go through rubbish, recycling bins, different ways to get your details. So just be mindful of how you give out personal information. Even if you're just sending an email, say it's to your accountant, what are you putting in that email? Does all of that information have to be there? Just so if someone did pick it up, how much of your personal stuff do they collect? The other ones, I've sort of touched on this a little as I've gone through the other ones, but marketplace and social media scams. So it could be, a lot with the online stores, watch through and clicking for your credit card information. If you do have GoMoney, there's a really cool feature now. You can see who's actually holding your credit card details. So it's an interesting little task if you've not done that. I've done that through myself just to see who's got my information stored. If you're buying online, a lot of the really reputable websites will ask you for a secondary verification code, which usually gets texted to your phone. So it's like what we call a two-factor authentication. Other social media scams, you could get things, I've seen them, I'll be your, sugar daddy, sugar mummy, I'll send you $5,000, but can you please send me $500 first? Again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So there's so many scams and things out there. It's just being aware of all of them and keeping yourself safe. So leading me on to tips for banking safely. So online and mobile banking, always look for type in the full web address. Keeping software and apps up to date. Stephen said a lot of with the apps been updated, they're doing it for security and added features. So making sure you're keeping that up to date. Antivirus software, you keep it up to date if you're using Windows and those sort of devices. Keep your pins unique, no phone numbers, no birthdays, even your kids or your husband or whoever your partners, anything like that. Just keep them unique. A great way to think of passwords is maybe like a saying or a sentence. It's a bit of a phrase. If you're wanting longer ones, it's one way to remember, but it's not something that's easily linked to you. Two-factor authentication. So basically, it's just like you can have it on Facebook and Instagram. You can have it on our ANZ website. Basically, you log in and then you'll get a text as a second way to log in. Or same with the bank, we have an extra code that we need to do. Don't share passwords or pins with anyone. Don't write them down. Because they can be used if someone does find it, and secure your devices. So if you're someone that works mobile for your business, how do you secure any of your equipment with your passwords? Do you leave it logged in? Do you have a lock screen? Because those are opportunities for people as well. If you're working maybe publicly in a cafe, keeping information safe and secure. Phone banking, have a unique PIN, but a really awesome thing, and if you can do it, we have Voice ID with ANZ, so your voice has got so many points to it that people cannot, basically pretend to be someone else or not you. So voice is the best way and protection for yourself on there. Protecting your personal information, so just keeping everything in safe places, things like your legal documents, your bank statements, anything like that. Ensure your devices are all protected with a PIN, or whether that's Face ID or Touch ID, making them more secure. Don't save passwords in your internet browser. So to give you an example of this, my friend gave his 15-year-old daughter his old laptop, and he hadn't cleared it. She left it in the back of a friend's car. Long story short, laptop stolen, and they had tried to access $6,000 worth of funds on his credit card within about 20 minutes because the passwords were saved on his internet browser. So, they're going to quickly buy stuff and use it if they do get it. So things like that make it easier for fraudsters to access. Review your bank statements regularly. Look for anything out of the ordinary. And using your cards, always sign the back of your card when you get it. Have a unique PIN, don't write it down, and keep it safe and don't let others use it. And sort of cover the PIN pad when you're using it in public so others don't see you, particularly in busy places. Or you can use tap as you go and you're not using your PIN, but sort of know where your cards are at times as well. Where do you go for help? cert.gov.nz is a really great source of information for you personally and your business. netsafe.org.nz is another one, police.gov.nz, and also, as I said, on our ANZ website and BankSafe, we update that all the time with our fraud team of anything they sort of see that's new or changing to keep you and your business more protected. But if you do notice anything, let us know as soon as possible. And we will help you to sort of secure your accounts if you think that. Our team are always looking for anything out of the ordinary as well.
Look, I think the overriding feature of today is around the volume of attacks and the sophistication of attacks. They are coming. It is literally left, right, and centre, and so. The purpose of today, really, we haven't got into, a lot of technical detail, but if we get back to the 90% piece, if you're educating your people, they have a level of awareness in terms of, what's coming across, their field of vision, because it's not just email, it could be phone calls, it could be text, stuff even comes in the post. So, just keep that vigilance up, and certainly even if something's happened and after the event and you're thinking, oh, I shouldn't have done that, please act fast, because the sooner you get on to something, the sooner or the higher the likelihood of a better outcome. That's enough from me, so I'm just going to say thank you, and Mel, I'll pass over to you to finish up.
No, thank you very much for everyone being here. Thanks again, Stephen, and for you all taking the time to come along and hear how you can protect yourself.